Hi everyone, how's it going today? I just thought I'd do a follow-up tip lesson today on the major scale chord formula and discuss the full form major scale chord formula. I'm going to do this today in the key of D major, so I'm carrying on the sort of pattern of fifths, and the key of D major really is the third key that you should be exploring. C is the first, G is the second, D is the third. Why? Because we're ascending up in scales really in terms of the number of sharps in the scale. So as you progress up the circle of fifths, the keys get a little bit more unwieldy to use. So let's start off then and look at the D major scale. So our D major scale contains the notes D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp and D. So those are our notes. If we then map those onto our major scale chord formula, we'll come up with 7 chords that we can play with. Now you should remember from the previous tip lesson that our major scale chord formula for the basic set of chords was major, minor, minor, major, major or dominant seventh, minor, and then flat 7 major. We're going to modify that now and do the full form chord formula. And we're going to have this formula: major 7th, minor 7th, minor 7th, major 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7th, minor 7th, flat 5th. So that's going to be our new formula for the full form chord formula. And again, we're applying this to the key of D major. So going over those chords, I'm just going to stick with some simple voicings of these chords today. In another tip lesson, I'll show you later different grips for these chords to make them sound a little bit more jazzier stroke cabaret, which is how I like to think of them. But for today, I'm just going to try and keep these grips as simple as possible to make this lesson as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. Because that way you can have some fun with what I call chord extensions to get some more colourful sounds into your chord progressions. Okay then, so our first note was D, so our first chord grip will be D major 7th. Beautiful sounding chord. All I'm doing there is barring across the first 3 strings at the 2nd fret and playing an open 4th. So there's our D major 7. Again, all of these chord grips can be found in my ebook. If you contact me and I'll email it to you, you'll get all the grips, and so I won't have to waste time here telling you what my fingers are doing. You'll just see my finger here, look in the ebook, and it'll all be laid out for you. So there's the D major 7. The next chord is going to be an E note that it's made off of, and that's going to be an E minor 7. So for that one I'm playing an E minor chord, then just putting in the D note on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string with my pinky finger. So there's my E minor 7, which is the 2 chord. Now for the 3 chord, I'm going to build that off of an F sharp note, and that's going to be an F sharp minor 7. So for that chord, I'm barring across the 2nd fret with my first finger. Then I'm going to fret the C sharp note on the 4th fret of the 5th string and play everything. For the 4th chord, I'm going to build that off of a G note, and that's going to be a major 7 chord. Now for the G major 7 chord, a little tip for this. Most textbooks show the G major 7 chord as that, which I really had troubles fretting, but then I realised later that nobody really frets it like that. The G major 7 chord, if not fretted like this, which is a jazzier voicing of it, if you want to fret it as an open chord, which I think sounds really nice, if you put your first finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, then hook your 2nd finger all the way over onto the 3rd fret of the 6th, but make sure that 2nd finger lays over slightly to mute the 5th. So there's the muted 5th. Now strike everything. There's a G major 7 open chord voicing. Really sounds nice without having to contort your fingers into an unwieldy shape. So there's the 4 chord. The 5 chord is going to be a dominant 7th chord built off of the A note, giving us an A7 chord, and I'm choosing to use that voicing. which is basically an A major chord without the middle note. So there's our A7. For our 6th chord, we're going to build that off of the B note, and that's back to a minor 7 chord. So that's going to be a B minor 7. That's a movable A minor 7 shape at the 2nd fret. And then for our 7 chord, here comes the odd one out, because last time it was a flat 7 major, which you could still use. And if you wanted to use the flat 7 major, the 7th note in D is C sharp, so flatten it by a semitone makes it C, play it as a major 7 would make it C major 7, which is basically a C major chord without the first finger. So you could use that if you wanted. We're going to use the proper voicing, or the proper chord for the 7th, and we're going to use the minor 7th flat 5th, which is a little bit of a weird sounding chord. It's somewhat of a dissonant chord, which means it lacks a tonal centre, which means when you hear it, it wants to pull to another chord. It's not sure where it is until you resolve it. So we often use these as passing chords. For the C sharp minor 7 chord, great little chord, sounds like this. So this is basically, it's a bit of a weird shape. It's like a D major chord moved over with an extra finger. And we're building that off of the C sharp note on the 5th string, 4th fret. So if I just give you the fingering for this one, because this one's a little bit awkward. First finger, 4th fret, 5th string. Second finger, 4th fret, 3rd string. Third finger, 5th fret, 4th string. And then pinky finger, 5th fret, 2nd string. And then you're going to play the middle 4 strings and muting out the 1st and the 6th. So there's our C sharp minor 7th flat 5th. So again, to quickly recap, D major 7, E minor 7, F sharp minor 7, G major 7, A dominant 7, B minor 7, and the last one, the awkward one out, the C sharp minor 7th flat 5th, before you resolve this back to D major 7. So those are our full form chords. Let's take a look at the next section of the video where I'll give you a little practice chord progression to mess around with this. Okay, here's a little example chord progression you might want to look at using, or something similar to this, for getting creative in the key of D major. So here's a nice sort of easy, simple chord progression. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm playing now, I'm just randomly arpeggiating the chords instead of strumming them. I'm just doing random picking up and down. It doesn't matter what you pick as long as you pick something like this. So the chord progression, all I'm playing is a D major 7 to a G major 7 to an E minor 7 to an A7. I repeated that 2 times, that sequence, then I ended it with a C major 7 to a D major 7th. Now for the C major 7 I use the flat 7 or a flat major 7th chord for that, instead of using the diminished chord or the minor 7 flat 5 chord. I think it fits in a little bit nicer with that style of progression. So that's an example of how you might want to look at using that. Now as a final note, do you know what chords I was using in the key there in terms of the numbers? Well, the D major 7 obviously would start was the 1 chord, went to the G major 7, which is the 4 chord, then we went to the E minor 7, which was the 2 chord, went to the A dominant 7th, which was the 5 chord, did that 2 times around, then we finished with a flat major 7th chord, or a flat 7 major 7th chord to get the C as opposed to the C sharp, and then we ended back on the 1 chord of the D major 7. So there's a little quick example of how you might want to come up with something nice and relaxing, maybe for some sort of like a ballad, if you're writing something like that, using some more complicated chords than just the basic standard set of G's, D's, C's, E minors and A majors. So, hope you found this useful. All the best, take care, keep strumming.